Hello! Welcome to this week's episode of Why Not Both? My name is Pam Shaffer, and I'm a musician, therapist, and tutor living in Los Angeles. I started this podcast to explore how our multiple passions inform our identity. We're often told that we're supposed to have one passion in life and that we're supposed to define ourselves by this one passion. However, most of us actually have multiple interests and have worked at a lot of different jobs. And I was really curious how this actually changed people's ideas of their own identity in the world. I decided to interview people from many different fields to determine how their multiple passions inform their identity. You can learn more about all of the people that I have interviewed on my website, which is wnbpodcast.com. So today on Why Not Both, we are joined by Kristin Dwan.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Kristin Dwan, and I am a hypnotherapist and a Reiki master, and I own and run and work my magic at the Healing Woods.
So the first question that I ask everybody is, what do you do? And I also ask, is there a better question that could be asked of you as opposed to what do you do?
Okay, I do so many things. Focused on work, I do hypnotherapy, I do Reiki. I'm also a teacher. I empower people with the energy of the universe. But really what I do within my work is I help people's inner children deal with the shadow.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I'm focused mainly on the subconscious mind in both areas, hypnotherapy for sure, but even within the Reiki, I'm the healer that you go to, not when you want to just like, oh, I wonder what Reiki feels like. I'm the one that you go to when you really want to get to the root of the issue and rip it out.
Gotcha. So you take people to the dark, truthy place.
I do. Yeah, it's not all love and light with me.
Amazing. And it's good to have a guide in the dark, truthy place.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely call, a lot of people call themselves light workers in the Reiki scene. I'm actually a shadow worker.
Well, and it's good because you need both light and shadow. If you just have one or the other, yeah. I was like, that doesn't work. You can't have a shadow without light. There's probably a really, really lovely way to phrase that I'm just not phrasing. Imagine I said something eloquent and poetic.
It was awesome.
So how would you explain to people what hypnotherapy is if they've never experienced hypnotherapy?
So hypnotherapy is literally taking control of your whole entire brain. We have 88% of our brain that is the subconscious mind. And a lot of people think, oh, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't access it. It's the anchor that makes me sink into the ocean. And that is 100% not true. I love to help people take, what they're consciously focused on, what the 12% of their mind, which is the conscious mind. I love taking them on a journey that allows us to change what's happening within the subconscious mind to actually be aligned with what they consciously desire in life. So they actually get to use 100% of their brain power focused on their goals.
Got it. So it sounds like by delving into the parts of our mind that we, I guess, usually think are either fixed or inaccessible, then we can affect change in the conscious. Am I understanding that correctly? Or
Definitely.
Okay, gotcha. And then also for people who might be unfamiliar, how would you describe what you do during Reiki healing?
So Reiki is universal light energy. And so it's not me taking somebody's energy into me, and it's not me giving my energy to them. It's universal light energy coming through me into the client. And it helps on the physical level, it helps on the metaphysical level, and it also helps on the emotional level as well. So on all three levels, it's helping to clear out, cut cords. Also, it's good for manifesting and bringing in exactly what you want into your life. So it's basically like, I call it a massage of the soul, because a lot of people come out feeling like drunk afterwards, like they do after a massage, and they feel just like really loose and limp. And it's because they have actually had an energetic cleansing and they have released a lot that keeps them tense.
Wow. Is there like, this is a really random question. I was like, is there like aftercare for sessions like that? Because if you are releasing that much, like, is
Yeah.
there, like, what do people typically do after a session like that to take care of themselves?
Yeah, I normally tell people don't go get Reiki and then go do all the things. Like,
Right.
come get Reiki and then have a nice, evening by yourself. Don't go to like a huge concert at the Staples Center, make sure that you have some time to just kind of relax and maybe even take a nap afterwards to just let everything kind of work its magic. That the energy is not only within you while you're with me. I'm instilling you with this energy, which is going to process and take its time doing so. So for the next day or two, it's usually a good thing to drink lots of water, rest up, go into nature if you can. But yeah, take a break from life if you can, for sure.
I was gonna say it sounds like both kind of lend themselves to like incremental change, I guess. Like it's not like you'd come out of like a hypnotherapy or Reiki session and be like, oh, immediately everything's different. But it seems like over time those things would then start changing.
Well, actually, about 95% of my clientele come out feeling completely different afterwards.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How do they integrate that like into their lives? I think that's more of what I was thinking was like if something changes like that, how do they implement it? Like do you have guidelines for how to implement that into people's like everyday lives or
Well, I mean, obviously, if they're working on something that's long standing, like for decades, they're not going to be completely different. But what they will feel is lighter, like 100% lighter walking out than they did walking in.
got
And
it?
so they don't really need to implement that necessarily. They're usually rejoicing, you know.
Oh,
They're usually just like, wow, I feel so much lighter. I feel like, whatever it was that I was worried about before, I don't feel that fear or that dread or whatever, the thing was that they were feeling.
mhm.
I will say that, that can sort of fade after the Reiki is done with you, because
Yes.
it's not like, when you go to the doctor, they usually don't give you one pill and you're completely cured. They give you a
Right.
course of treatment. And so the Reiki is, it works just like any holistic approach. It's like an onion, and we're peeling off the skin, and then we're peeling off the first layer, and then we get deeper and deeper as we go. So the more Reiki you get, the stronger the effect.
Got
And the
it.
more often you get Reiki, the longer the effect stays until it actually, takes out the root. And then, yeah, I have had people be quote unquote healed from things or not need surgeries that they thought they were going to need, or, not need to take their medications that they've been on, psych meds and things like that. I will say, I am not ever the type of person to say, oh, don't take your meds or don't go to the doctor. Like Reiki needs to be, it works hand in hand with Western medicine. I always say East and West is best. It's like using both of these in order to bring you to where you want in life.
I just imagine like a handshake, like meeting in the middle, being like, yeah, we're working together.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Oh, that's interesting because I was thinking about when you were talking, it sounds like these two fields really dovetail. Like, is that accurate?
Oh yeah. Well, for 20 years I've done Reiki and I've worked with the subconscious mind within Reiki because there are ways in which to get through there. But I almost felt like I was looking through a window. Like I could get into the subconscious mind enough to kind of see what's there and guide my client, but the door was always locked. And so
Mhm.
I always knew that I wanted to like get in there and just like do some good work, And so learning hypnosis, that like blew open the door. It was so beautiful.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, I get access.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and the client gets access because it's not all about me just going in and doing what I think is right for the client. The client is 100% open to, their words and their terms and their phrases. I could sit there and talk till I'm blue in the face about what I think is right for the client, but their subconscious mind is not going to accept that unless it's like something they actually sort of believe, right?
Right.
One of us, there could be some doubt, and that's human, but they have to at least like accept it. So that's why people who think like, oh, hypnotherapy is mind control, or they watched the movie Get Out,
Right. Oh gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that is so not hypnotherapy in the least. And I actually hate when movies you know uh, show it in that light, because that is not true. That doesn't even work. you
Well,
know
that, yeah, I find it similarly, like as a psychotherapist, like I consider my clients to be the experts on themselves. So
yeah.
similarly, I'm there to facilitate with whatever tools I can give them and whatever insight I can provide, but ultimately it's like they're guiding me because they're the only expert on their own experience. And
They all have their answers within. We just kind of help them shine the light.
exactly. I feel similarly when I see like misportrayals of therapists in
Yeah.
shows where I'm just like, oh wow, this would dissuade any person from seeking counseling. They'd be like, maybe I'll try literally anything else.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
you're like, no, 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 it's not like that. I was curious also that, I'm like, I have insider knowledge, but you're also creative. Like,
Yes.
how does that integrate into how you define yourself? Like, what are the creative fields that you're in?
Well, I've got a couple. So I wrote a book. So I'm an author, and I wrote about, it's called Baptism by Flame, 10 Steps to Ignite Your Light Within. And it's a story of a story. It sounds like it's not a bedtime story at all. It's,
Yeah, you're like, don't read this before falling asleep.
I know. But it's about dying and coming back to life from a fire, which is something that I did in 1998. And that was the beginning of my journey learning Reiki and becoming the phoenix that I am today. Um, and it's got, the story aspect, but it also is a workbook for the reader. There's an online aspect to the book, and you log in and there's a workbook to do, so you can go on your own journey with fire as well, because fire is such a healing element. It definitely destroyed my house and destroyed my skin. I had third-degree burns over 30% of my body, and I was in a burn ward for a month, and it completely purified me. Took away all of the depression I was feeling, took away the need for the drugs I was doing, and really, burnt me alive into feeling alive and feeling amazing in life. So that's one aspect of my creativity. The other is singing. So I've been in a band for most of my adult life, and I've been singing through childhood too. I started singing in choirs when I was in third grade, and it has always been this beautiful release. I almost feel like when I'm on stage and I'm singing the words that I write, I'm ripping my soul and my heart open and just like bleeding upon the audience through my voice, and it feels pretty awesome. I know that's not a lovely.
Well, it feels like you're ultimately like being seen, and that's really powerful to be like, this is my viscera. Like,
Being seen, heard, and felt. Like I feel
yes.
like those three. Um, so yeah, I was in a band for like 12 years, and that really got me through my 20s and part of my 30s. And then I needed to build my business, the Healing Woods. So I had to step back from the band because it was really a full-time job
Yeah.
I was not just the lead singer, I was also the manager and the booker and promoter and you name it.
Yes.
So
I
yeah.
think people underestimate that about
uh,
musicians, that they think that we just sit about like,
yeah,
making songs, and I'm like,
yeah, right.
I'm like, that's like 10% of what we do.
Yeah, exactly. But this
That's,
year, so I wasn't in music for probably like 7 years.
wow.
And I really missed it. And so I put it out to the universe last year. I said, I really want to find the right people to make music with again. And I wanted it to be women because my last band, the Darklings, we were mostly women. We always just had like one random guy.
The chosen one. You just adopt him.
And so this year I have Ravenwood, which is my new band, and it's all women so far. We're still looking for a drummer. We're open to a man if he's cool with being in a mostly girl band. But I'm really like, excuse me, my soul is just so happy to be like singing and singing the words that I write again, and just being in that beautiful divine flow of music.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, when you were growing your business that you have now, the Healing Woods, I was curious about like how to divvy up your time and effort, because that then does precipitate into either A, you have a band, B, you have a business, or C, you have both. But it seems really tricky to balance all of those.
When I first started the Darklings, which was the old band, I had a full-time job in the ad industry, the advertising industry.
Oh my God.
I was building the Healing Woods, and I was building the band and doing all of it, you know.
Right.
I actually had 3 full-time jobs during that time. And there would be days where I would literally get 4 hours of sleep because I would wake up at 6 in the morning to get to work on time. And then sometimes I was out playing a show or networking or passing out flyers back in the day. This was before, you know.
Right when we went to Kinko's and we got flyers and
Oh, yeah. And
yep.
you'd stand outside at 2 a.m. and as people walked out, you would hand them flyers. Now we've got Facebook and all that shit, you know.
Yep. I was like, back in ye old times.
Yeah, this was like 2000. So yeah, it was quite an ordeal going to bed at 2 a.m. and then waking up, you know, ready to go be a corporate manager.
Oh my God. So you're just like, don't mind me. Everything is clearly fine. I'm like, then you would definitely, I can understand. I'm like, are you a coffee person? Are you a tea person? I'm like, how did you make it through that?
You know, truthfully, it's so funny. I don't drink caffeine. I never have. I use it more as like an upper, like a drug if I need to like clean my garage or something like that. It's like my liquid speed, you know.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I've never had it every day or anything like that. I guess I'm lucky.
My ADD brain loves it. Like it seriously, it like calms and centers me in such a pleasant way that I'm just
Right.
like, that's why I like my morning cup of coffee. Is like it's not even necessarily to like wake up, because
Yeah.
like it doesn't make me necessarily feel more alert, but it helps my focus so much that I'm just like, yep, I love you, coffee, and I hope you love me back.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel that if I wasn't doing Reiki, because Reiki really does give me a lot of energy. Like if it was like any other type of healing work I was trying to build a business around, I probably would be super tired during that time. But when you do Reiki, the Reiki is going through you and giving you energy and giving you a healing, you know, while you're working on your client. In fact, I used to be a doula at one point, and
Oh,
I would be standing guard over women as they were in labor for like 21 hours sometimes.
oh my God.
I was doing Reiki the whole time and some massage and other modalities, but mainly it was Reiki. And so after doing Reiki for 21 hours, you know, and being up with this woman as she's pushing out a baby, people were like, how are you still awake? How do you still have energy? And it was literally because the Reiki was keeping me going, you know?
Wow. Well, and that's really inspiring too, to really like hold that space for someone while receiving that energy. I'm like,
Yeah,
dang.
definitely. Definitely.
What drew you to that? Like you had said that you were also working in corporate advertising, and I was like, I know that you had mentioned with your book that it changed and that the fire changed really the course of your life, but were you drawn to energy work prior to that?
Yeah, when I was a child, I loved, you know, just even finding rocks in the dirt. It didn't even have to be crystal.
Uh-huh.
You know, I just loved the earth. I loved playing with frogs out in my parents' backyard. I would climb trees. I was a total tomboy. I never played with dolls. You know, I would play with little woodland animals. And I wrote about in my book that I would make soup for the fairies and like just pick flowers and grass and twigs and put them together in water and leave it out for the fairies. So I always have been really drawn to nature and to energy. And even before I knew what Reiki was, I would, I did tarot readings, and that's how I started doing tarot when I was like probably 12 or 13. And I would connect with people energetically through the cards. And I'm glad that I found Reiki, though, because what started to happen was people would come to me, feeling hurt or upset or, sad. And I would do a reading with them, or, start to work with crystals and doing my own type of energy work. And then they would leave feeling amazing. And then I started feeling hurt and upset. It was total transference, right?
Yep.
And so through the Reiki, I was able to still feel what they're feeling, but not take it in, because I am an empath. I feel like most healers are empaths of some sort. And it's okay to be an empath. You just have to know how to guard yourself, and Reiki is like the number one guard, because it keeps their energy out of you, yet lets you empathically feel where they're at, so you know how to help them.
Right. And it sounds like kind of upholding like a healthy boundary with that, so that you're not taking in this stuff. Got it. How did you navigate the corporate world with all that?
Reiki.
I was like, how did you end up in that world?
Oh man, yeah, I didn't even have a TV. I hate TV, but I'm a good salesperson. I'm very myself and have a good attitude, and I'm smart, and I was very grounded, and so I just climbed up. I didn't even try. I actually made a few of my own like titles that weren't even
fantastic.
there. But my office, I at one point I was the regional sales manager of blah 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 at this rep firm, and so I had a nice big office with a door, and I had pictures of the redwoods up everywhere. I had crystals in my office. I had a fountain, I had all these things, and I would do Reiki on myself in between, like, because it was still, even though my office was a nice little sacred space, it was still super. I mean, people were like crying, losing their shit all around me. There's like $1 million deals happening all over the place, and money gained and money lost. Like, it was a lot of stress. And people would come in and just kind of hang out in my office. They're like, you know what? I just need to go to the spa for a minute. Don't mind me.
Well, it sounded like you did your very best to bring like the woodland sanctuary into your office.
I did. And actually what started happening was it got out that I did tarot readings, and, yeah. And so people started taking me to lunch, and that's actually how I started building my list. My client list was people would take me to lunch, and like I do a tarot reading for them, and then I started doing longer ones and charging. And then through the band also, fans of the band would come, and in between sets, I'd be doing tarot readings out there. And so I just started learning how to talk to people and connect with them, like on a very spiritual level, soul deep level, even in the middle of a goth club,
I mean, that seems appropriate.
For sure. And, to this day, that was like, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. To this day, I still have clients that knew me as Demonica Darkly back in the day when I was in the band, and they're still my clients coming, monthly. So it's pretty beautiful when you really connect with people at that level.
I was going to say, and now I'm wondering, I'm like, how did I not encounter you when I was sneaking into goth clubs when I was probably too young to be at goth clubs? I was just like, I likely was in the same space as you 20 years ago, but we didn't know it. We make these awesome soul connections with people, but we also live under capitalism. So it's like we have to figure out a way to make money in our society. And I was curious how that drive to make money has informed your decisions about how to spend your time and efforts.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Well, for the longest time, I did what I did on the side of a job that paid me very well. So for, you know, for a while, it was like just kind of like extra income on the side, or I would do it for free. And I wasn't really looking at it as a business.
Got it.
And then what happened was, it was 10 years into it, and I was starting to really dislike, like I said, I didn't even own a TV yet. I was dealing with commercial airtime for television and having to be in this like corporate world that I am so not corporate. And so, then my soul was whispering to me like, come on, you can do so much more, you can do so much better work in this world outside of this desk. It's time to see what you can do within the healing woods. So it wasn't until like probably 10 years into it that I decided to even get a website and get myself on Yelp. And so then opening myself up to people who weren't friends, like total strangers on Yelp and things like that, and friends of friends and that kind of thing. It became a lot easier, yeah, because I wouldn't build a business on friends. That would feel kind of weird.
Right.
But
Right.
really getting in touch with, I'm a business coach for healers and mystics as well. And one of the big things with healers is it's a gift and I have to share it for free. And we're in a time and a space. And the one thing that I have them think about when they come to me as their coach with that is I say, I want you to think about your doctor and your dentist and how they're helping you. You come in with an ailment or a pain, and then they help you and you leave. Do you think that they're staying up at night, tossing and turning, thinking, should I charge? Should I get money for what I do? Should I do it for free? A gift? And it absolutely is a gift, and you should receive payment for it, because as healers we are helping people on such a deep level. We're allowing them to sleep at night. We're helping them with pains, physical pains. We're helping them with emotional shit that's been churning inside of them for sometimes decades.
Yeah.
And if they leave you and they feel lighter and they feel happier and they have a smile on their face, that is definitely worth something. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I started looking at not what I do as a spiritual thing, and more as the new medicine that the world is embracing. And 20 years ago when I was doing this, people didn't know what the hell Reiki was. But now, Oprah's talked about it. Dr. Oz's wife is a freaking Reiki master. It's on TV. It's in the movies. So it's now becoming, energy medicine is one of the new up and coming modalities, that's getting its due.
Well, and I like what you said, that you're like, if you're providing something to someone, it seems like in that way that money is just a medium of, in a way, like energy exchange, where
Yeah.
you're putting your energy and talents out there, and the way that someone can then compensate you is through money, because instead of like trying to barter back and forth, it's like, okay, I'm giving you this, which though I enjoy it and it's my gift, I am giving this to you, so you are giving me something back in return. It's like a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. And that's interesting about like that energy. When you said that like energy medicine is up and coming, it kind of made me think about how there are so many things that we can perceive, but there are also things that we're learning that we can't actually generally perceive using the five senses.
Hmm.
And I was curious, like what you've studied about that. I've only like done rudimentary, like weird Googles, but more like scholarly articles about like extrasensory perception. Like, does that come up in Reiki healing and whatnot?
Oh, of course. With the third eye and just using your intuition, it's like a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so, with me doing Reiki for 20 years and about 10 of those being like, full time, it's gotten pretty strong, and doing readings for, God, 30 years. Jeez. So yeah, I've been going to the gym for 30 years with my third eye. So yeah, definitely throughout the years, it's gotten stronger and stronger. I did want to go back. I don't know if this is what you were asking too, but with energy medicine and kind of it coming in as more of a real modality, I actually just took this course, which I'm always learning. Even though I've been a Reiki master for 20 years, I am always taking different courses on Reiki and learning different aspects of it. And I just did a course called Reiki Science.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just, I am so happy. I always believed in Reiki, and I knew that it was real because of the effect I felt on myself and that I see on my clients every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to hear that it was taken into a scientific experiment. And there was a Reiki master named Thorsten Lang, I think his name is, and he's in Sweden. And so he took it upon himself to rent out, however you do, renting out like a scientific experiment lab, with scientists and all these different machines. And they took water. They took just regular tap water from Sweden, and they took, pictures of the crystals inside the tap water and showed, what the base was of what this water looks like. Mm-hmm. And then they did half an hour of Reiki, 1 hour of Reiki. They did distance Reiki where he wasn't even touching the glass itself. Mm-hmm. And they did the different symbols of Reiki. There's 4 different symbols within Reiki. And every single time that they did Reiki on the water, they did hundreds of different tests. The crystals always changed. And so and they show pictures of it. They first the crystals are kind of random, just tap water, random stuff, right? By the time an hour of Reiki was done on it, there's these star patterns and they look like flowers. I mean, it was just so beautiful. And so if Reiki energy is scientifically being shown to have this effect on water, of course it's going to help us as humans because we're over 80% water.
Yeah, right? It was we're pretty aqueous as things go.
So, I just see there's a huge shift. There's a huge shift in people. I'm getting more and more people, feeling that shift. And, some are scared of it and they need some healing around it. And then there's some that are super excited about it and want to learn more and more about what they can do. And those are my favorite clients to work with because they're the ones that want to learn Reiki. They're the ones that want to be empowered to be part of the healing army that's actually being created, throughout these new energies around. So yeah, it's all exciting.
I was gonna say it's really interesting when we look to the scientific community, which often relies on the traditional 5 senses, to see what we can validate from things that appear to be extrasensory. I remember being so excited reading the studies about mirror neurons because I had tried to explain empathy to someone who said that they don't feel very empathic towards others. Mm-hmm. And I was attempting to explain it, what it felt like to me when I feel other people's feelings. Mm-hmm. And then when this study came out, I was like, they actually found that our brains do this. Our brains have these and I was explaining mirror neurons that our brains have little triggers in them that when we see other people expressing emotions, our brain triggers the mirrored emotion within our own brains. Yeah. And so it's we actually have that built in. And so I'm really excited about more research on how do we cultivate that? And then how does it come out in our behavior? Because everyone has them, but I guess in some people, they're much more active than in others. But that they looked for actually what are the electrical channels in your brain that might connect to the neurons that might, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but they they went into to be how do we explain this phenomenon in the traditional terms that we all understand, as opposed to just being well, then I feel people's feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was really excited to see that kind of research. My friend is he's a very kind person. He just is. He was really funny. He's I don't feel these things that frequently. He's can you explain them to me? And I was I'm going to do my best. Why do you think, by the way, we were talking about all these different things that you've done, and I'm curious, at the beginning, when I said, what do? You were oh my gosh, I do so many things. And I'm curious why you think a lot of people default to the narrative of having a one true passion kind of thing.
Well, I mean, some people don't even know what their passion is. So I guess the ones who have the one true passion are lucky, to know even what one true passion is. Because I have a lot of clients who are like, I don't know what my purpose is on this world, and I feel like I'm asleep in life, and I go to work and I go to home and I go to work and I go home, So I guess even having one true passion is a beautiful thing. And I feel super lucky that I have so many. I guess, within my healing work, the passion is to bring people peace. And everything that I've worked on in life, you know, the, all the different modalities. I've done massage, I've done fire cupping, I do Reiki, I do hypnotherapy, I've been a doula. There's been so many different things so many hats I've worn, but they all were for that why that I have. My why of my business is to bring people peace from the first breath of life to the last, because I love working in the transitions as well. Like I said, as a doula, also I'm a death doula as well, so birth and death. And I suppose it's because my upbringing, I shouldn't say my upbringing, just life, being born a very energetic being in, the 70s and 80s before all of this stuff was so well known. I always felt like such a freak because I wasn't doing the things that the other kids were doing. And my life was not very peaceful because it was just pretty intense and hardcore. And I went, my family got divorced when I was 8, and I was suicidal, and just all this stuff happened, as a teenager. So I feel that because I have found that peace in life through the fire was a big beginning to that peace. It wasn't a peaceful fire, but my life changing to become peaceful. And so I feel like I want to help people with that, because I know what it feels like to be in that darkness, and I know what it feels like to not want to live. And I know how I clawed my way up to the light. So I want to help people with that. So that's like the one passion. But then, yes, I have a passion for writing. And so I wrote a book, and then I have a passion for singing. I also have a passion for, decorating my home. I feel like I have such a passion, I guess, for life and creativity, because life was taken away from me for a minute,
Right.
and I literally, don't think I said that in the beginning, but I literally lost my life in that hospital. My heart stopped and they had to resuscitate me. So it was almost like it was like a reset button that was pushed, and I came back a different person.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it reminded me of like a hard restart, where it's like
Yeah.
you had no other choice but to come back as like a different person. And like, is it accurate that, I guess, like in your work, it sounds like you help people get to that other person without having to actually burn their house down?
Yeah, and that's actually part of that's so funny you said that, because if you look on my website, I do a thing called a bullshit bonfire. And it's like a 2-hour healing immersive thing where we go in and we actually burn like a list of stuff that's bothering the person, and they get Reiki, they get hypnosis, they get all kinds of good stuff. And literally on the website, it says, let me help you, become a phoenix without actually having to burn your house down.
I wish I could say it's because I was a really great Googler and looked up your website, but it's not.
You just get me, that's all.
Like, I am going to link to your website at the end of the episode so other people can find you.
Yeah, awesome.
Like, my goodness. Well, it sounds like I was going to ask you what like your favorite things that have come of this path are, but I'm like, oh my gosh, everything you're describing sounds amazing. So I'm just like, how would you choose favorites?
Well, I would say, this is going to sound really weird, but a favorite thing, I've had a lot of intense things happen to me in life. It started very early in life, and the fire was just one of them. But the most recent was a cancer diagnosis, and that happened last year. And I used hypnotherapy, I used Reiki, I used, my tribe of healers around me to help me through that. And I'm 100% cancer free now. And it took me 63 days to go from diagnosis to clear.
Wow.
Yeah. And So, and, it was scary, and it was the jump off point for my newest transition. And so, I had to get through the surgery. I had to get through, all the things physically, but I was doing all sorts of work on myself mentally and spiritually and energetically to really transform myself physically.
Wow.
And this year, through hypnosis and through Reiki and just through pure determination, I have lost 55 pounds since January, and my goal is to lose 100 pounds this year. And
wow.
so I'm totally on track to do that. And so that has been my favorite thing was, taking a really intense diagnosis and using the tools that I know work, for me and for others, and seeing this proof that you really can get through the deepest, darkest shit and come out of it, this bright, shining phoenix,
Well, and you're like, for lack of a better way of saying it, you're like walking the walk. You're like helping people do this, but then you're like, oh, I'm going to do this myself as well.
Well, I do it myself first. Like, I never learn anything unless it's like completely changed my life. Like, there's some people that just want to go learn every single modality, and that's cool, but that's just a lot of time for me. Like, I don't want to, my time is super precious. I want to only learn the things that I know and I have a passion for because they've helped me. So Reiki and hypnotherapy, those are the big two. Those are like the two pillars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's amazing because I also know you had said that you were in school that whole time too. So I'm like, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're like, yes.
Yeah, last year was a very intense year, and I'm so much better for getting through it, and I never want to go through it again.
There you go. Like, congratulations, you never have to. That's amazing. How, if someone came to you and was like, I want to learn how to be a hypnotherapist or Reiki master, how would they do that?
So I would say, definitely get in touch with me. I would love to empower people, by learning Reiki. I am a Reiki master of the Usui system of natural healing. It's the grandfather of all Reikis, because I know if you go Google Reiki, you're going to get like 100 different types of Reiki. Mm-hmm. But this is like the first one,
Got it.
So yeah, I'm taking on new clients and new students, definitely. I can't teach hypnosis, but what I would say is I did a lot of research on schools when I was interested in learning hypnosis. And there was a lot of easy ways out. Like I could have definitely gone to like a weekend thing and like gotten, a certification saying I was a hypnotherapist. I could have done like a month or two, But I've always been the go deep or go home girl. Like, even though it's easy, it doesn't mean it's right, And so I wanted to really immerse myself into a whole year of study. And this, luckily, I had HMI. It's Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and it was within an hour drive of me. And so I did that hour drive every day gladly because I was so excited to immerse myself in that energy. But they also do have online, so you don't actually have to go in if somebody's listening to this and they're not in California. But we had students from India, we had students from the UK, we had students all over the world, because it really is kind of the Harvard of hypnotherapy colleges. And I'm super excited that it was so close to me.
Oh, and being able to connect with all those people too who are passionate about the same thing you are.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. That's really cool. Oh, I'm like, I'm at the last question, and I'm like, but I want to ask more questions. I'm like, I'm glad I started a podcast because I just want to ask people questions about stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, literally, it's like someone was like, "Why did you start this podcast?" I'm like, "Well, I do a million things, and I'm really curious about the million things that other people do."
Totally.
But I was curious, like, you've had a really fascinating life, and would you want to give any advice to your younger self, or would it just be spoilers?
Yeah, people have asked me that before, and it's, I have zero regrets. People are like, would you not light that candle, that
Mhm.
down your house? And actually, no, I would still light it, because even though I went through all of that pain and almost dying, and, you know, it was what was needed to bring me to where I am today. I wouldn't have even known what Reiki was, or, wouldn't have, who knows where I would have gone. I was really almost in a downward spiral there.
Mm.
So I guess I would just say, love yourself sooner than you did.
Mhm.
That would be the only thing I would say. I wouldn't take away any of the experiences I've had, because they are the strength that I rely on now. Um, but I really didn't learn how to love myself until I was in my 30s, even after the fire. I didn't want to die, so that was nice. But,
I
but
was like, that's a good baseline, but like,
in my early 20s, I really, in teens, I really, really wanted to die. I was just like super depressed. And then at 23 was when the fire happened, and after that I didn't want to die. I was glad I was alive, yet I still didn't fall in love with myself until probably my 30s. So I would say, try to learn to love yourself earlier than I did, would be a nice thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like self-compassion and love would
Yeah.
be the advice to give younger you and to anyone listening.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to be weird. Seriously, like, it's so funny. When I was in the corporate world, and there was all these like vanilla, people just like, oh, we're gonna go to IKEA on the weekend, and they would ask me like, what did you do on the weekend? I'm like, oh, I played a show and went up to the artist colony, and
Right.
drums all night and pet a giraffe. I mean,
Exactly. They're like, I ate meatballs.
yeah, it's like, be weird, because even though I was weird, even though I had a nose ring, even though I had tattoos and flaming red hair, I still became a corporate manager for, the vanilla tribe of, of and it's about you. It's about you believing in yourself. And it's because I believed in myself and I knew I was doing a good job, and I was just being real. A lot of the clients that we had were, from TV stations all over the country. So they were tired of the same, like, yes, yes, I'll do that for you. Yes.
Right.
It
Right.
sounds good. Like all the fucking like shit that people say in an office. And I was always like 100% myself. So just be yourself. You don't have to try to be anybody else, and find out what your passion is and fucking chase it.
Yeah, do it. Do the thing. Even if it's like 7 things, do all
Yes.
of them.
Yes.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate your time. And everyone can go to all of the links that I will provide on my website, so that you can go find Kristin and get her book and listen to her music and learn more about her. And I'm like, yep, that's a lot of ands. I'm just going to keep adding ands.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Why Not Both. If you would like to learn more about Kristin and find the links to her books and to her website, please visit my website, which is wnbpodcast.com, so you can check them all out. While you're at it, please like and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform, so that way you can catch all of our interviews and hear all of the amazing stories that I get to hear, being the person interviewing people. It's pretty great. Thanks again, and I will see you all next week.